wait, orange, black, and white. Cause when the jungle come alive, who day we ignite and Cincinnati, we gon' rise and in the jungle we unite and drippin' orange and black and white. Who day when we fight, live and die in these stripes. Wake up the beast, every Monday is a feast. Time to bust it off the leash. In the jungle drippin' heat, tigers strike the city streets. East side stand up, west side stand up. If you reppin' who day, time to put your hands up. Single stripes, we in it. New day, new age, yeah, we get it. Cincinnati jungle fitted. Who day in our house, we win it. Orange and black and white, we build it. Earn our stripes, you know we kill it. Bleed our colors, jungle drippin', nasty natty, yeah, we live it. Lit the crowd, get the city loud. Yeah, we feastin' now. Fit the pounce, make the city howl. Now we beastin' now. Thunder through the tunnel, from the sideline to the huddle. Stripes we tatted on the jungle when we flex that who they muscle on them. Stripes, Cincinnati, we gon' rise and in the jungle we unite and drippin' orange and black and white. All day when we fight, live and die in these stripes. Stripes. Now who gotta move like it on? Stripes. Now who wanna move dancing on? Stripes. Now who wanna move on? If you got stripes and you let the city know you rock 'em, yeah we got 'em, yeah we fought 'em. Like that black and orange on bottle, bingo bottle, never stop it till the beast on feastin' on 'em. Who they rockin' with the diamond stripes, flossin' on the ring. Cincinnati, she's our queen, we gon' show the world who king. Orange in the day, black in the night. Stripes in our veins, sparks gonna fly. The beast is awake, orange, black and white. Cause when the jungle come alive, who day we ignite and Cincinnati, we gon' rise and in the jungle we unite and drippin' orange and black and white. Who day when we fight, live and die in these stripes. Now who gotta move like it on? Now who wanna move dancing on? Now who wanna move on? Who day when we fight, live and die in these stripes.
Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to the show. This is Sports with Strawberry Ice. I'm your host, the Iceman, Jeff Trunapole. And as always, I'm bringing you sports from a West Side point of view right here in the great city of Cincinnati, Ohio, home of the Cincinnati Reds, who are still a half a game up on the Padres, or I should say back to a half a game up on the Padres. As soon as you think they're dead, the offense turns it around and they blow out the Tweety Birds, which was awesome, and hopefully the home of the Big 12 and University of Cincinnati. We'll get to all that in a minute. Now, do me a favor, if you found the show, hit that like and subscribe button. Smash that thumbs up. I'm up to 1,348 subscribers. That is awesome. I appreciate every single one of you guys. Now, coming to you live from the Ice Cave. The Ice Cave is brought to you by T Properties. T Properties, quality housing for quality people. Check out their website at www.tpropertiesllc.com for all your rental property management needs and your rental needs. All right, guys, if you're watching it on Facebook or Twitter and you have not subscribed to my channel, please do. Please go to YouTube channel Sports with Strawberry Ice. Hit that subscription button. Hit the bell for the notifications. I would greatly appreciate it. Also, in the YouTube channel, we're doing super chats. So if you like to support what I'm doing, I would greatly appreciate it and give me a super chat. That is awesome. And yes, Crown, I agree with you. That song pumps me up. I know we're talking a lot of Reds today, but that's still a great Cincinnati theme song. It's from Gift Vader and Black Light Productions. So if you guys have not checked it out, go to their YouTube channel and check it out. Now let's get to the news of the day before we get to my wonderful guest, Reds beat writer Bobby Nightingale. It came down, word that came down today. This is from Chuck Carlton. And he says he can confirm via industry sources that BYU, UCF, Cincinnati, and Houston have emerged as the four leading contenders in the Big 12 expansion. He's told the timeline is fuzzy, but the process could be complete sometime during the academic year. Now, from what I have understood is, we had, 4, 5, 6 years ago, Big 12 was talking about expanding, and they decided to stay with 10 teams instead of going to 12. Now, obviously, we all know that Texas and Oklahoma are leaving and going to the SEC. And I think some of the teams from the Big 12, or maybe the whole Big 12 in general, was wondering if the Pac-12 wanted to expand and, either merge completely with them or take some of their teams. Well, Pac-12 came out a couple weeks ago and said they are staying pat and they are not going to expand at this time. So that opens the door for UC to get into the Big 12. I personally am, I won't say I am excited. I mean, I'm excited. I want them to be in the Big 12. I want to be in a Power 5 school conference because this gives Luke Fickell a chance at getting to a national title every year. It's not ideal. I mean, I agree with Crown. He says they should join the ACC. I would love to do that, but they also have to be offered a spot. And I don't know if the ACC is offering anything right now. It looks like the Big 12 is. And I do agree ACC would be much better. A lot of our old rivalries from the Big East and Metro Days and Great Midwest Conference, a lot of them are there. But if they take, like I said here, let me bring this back up here. If they take Houston and Central Florida, those two are pretty big rivalries, especially Central Florida. In football, Houston is a big one in basketball. And then West Virginia is already there in the conference. So that would be a big rivalry too. So that's three somewhat close rivals. Either way, I think it'd be a great move if this can happen for the Bearcats. But I am not holding my breath because I've heard this before. And that wasn't that long ago that I was damn sure it sounded like that they were going to the Big 12, and then the Big 12 decided to not do it. So hope and a prayer it happens. By the guy who tweeted that out, sounds like we should find out something by this academic year. I don't know. We'll find out. Keep our fingers crossed. But let's get to a friend of the show, a great guest. He's Reds beat writer Bobby Nightingale. Bobby, what's going on, man?
Not too much. How you been?
Good. How are you? I'm glad you're back on the show. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, no problem. Playoff race, off day today, so glad to finally see these still exist and get ready for the stretch run.
Exactly. Perfect timing. I have to ask you now, what was up with Nick Castellanos' bat yesterday? I mean, it really started reminding me of the pine tar incident with I hate when I do it. I start talking about a story I can't remember. Brett. Oh my goodness.
Brett.
Thank you, George Brett. It started reminding me of that. I'm like, if they take this grand slam away from him, I'm going to go nuts. And I think David Bell was too. So what was the whole story behind this? What were they trying to do? Just get rid of the bat, or what was the story behind this?
Yeah, I mean, it turned out to be much ado about nothing. I think everyone, when it first happened, was like, "Uh-oh, a possible George Brett incident."
Right.
That one got overturned a few days later. It got played under protest, and they replayed after the George Brett thing, and the home run still counted. So the umpires immediately told Castellanos and David Bell, "Hey, the home run counts. We just want to make sure we are interpreting the rules correctly." That's why they put on the headsets. That's why there was the long delay. But it just turned out, I mean, Nick Castellanos used a bat that they deemed that he couldn't use because it had a big chip in it, just for safety reasons. But other than that, I mean, there was nothing really that controversial about it. It just kind of looked that way just because I think everyone thought of the George Brett incident.
Right, exactly. Well, the thing is, I know the Cardinals manager has had that in his back pocket because Nick's been using that bat for a couple games. Because I've seen the big chunk out of it on the Reds broadcast. They're talking about what he's using. So he was waiting for the right time to pull that out, I think, and hopefully get the grand slam thrown out. Which, hey, it's gamesmanship. It's not a bad move, if you ask me. But luckily, it didn't work.
Yeah, and Mike Schultz, I mean, the Cardinals manager said afterwards he kind of knew when he brought it up it wasn't going to change the grand slam or anything. Maybe it was some gamesmanship saying, "Okay, Nick, you're going to have to change your bat when you come up next time."
Right.
Back into it. But it sounded like it wasn't nothing nefarious on their end either in terms of there might have been some gamesmanship, but nothing in terms of they were hoping to overturn the grand slam or anything like that.
And now the kid, I think Nick gave the bat to a kid in the stand, so that whoever's got that bat, I'd try to get that autograph. That could be it's a story behind the bat. Not only did the bat get thrown out, but it was a part of a 2-run homer and a grand slam bat and back-to-back hits. So that's pretty good. It was this close. I think if Farmer got up in the next inning, Nick would have came up with the bases loaded again. How awesome would it have been if he hit 2 grand slams, and that would have been the same inning. That would have been so cool if that would have happened. I think Fernando Tatis is the only one I remember doing something like that.
Yeah, Fernando Tatis Sr. hit 2 grand slams same inning. Yeah, I think that's the only one in baseball history.
Yeah, that would have been awesome. Now let's get to the Reds offense. Now, it's kind of slumbered here the last couple games up until yesterday. I think they had not scored in double digits since August 16th. And we've had these lulls with the Reds offense, and I keep I'm not hoping, just wondering all year, are they going to be able to keep this offense up all year? You know, are we going to get to the final stretch, and is the offense just going to go? And that's what I was kind of getting worried about here the last couple of days. But yesterday, the bats took off again yesterday.
Yeah, I thought it was an important step. I mean, it's one of those, you know, the way a lot of the players explained it was last week. You know, they lost to Corbin Burns, they lost to Brandon Woodruff, they lost to Sandy Alcantara. Those are 3 really good pitchers. I mean, Burns and Woodruff are in the Cy Young race. Alcantara, I mean, that was probably the best pitching performance I've seen in terms of the way he dominated the Reds lineup. So I think they forgave themselves for those 3 losses, and then they lost to that really young guy from Miami. That one was tougher.
Sorry, my dog's going nuts right now. I think
not happy about the Reds offense either.
Yeah, he's ecstatic about the Reds offense. I think Mrs. Ice showed up and he's trying to greet her real quick. But I think that was one of the best pitching performances of the year. I think by Sonny Gray. I think he stepped up in a big way as a stopper for the Reds.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was a game they had to win. He gave up a home run on the first pitch, and it was like, they might be just the way they've been giving up runs in the first inning. But credit to him. I mean, even when the offense came alive a little bit, he made sure there were shutdown innings afterwards, kept the lead, pitched relatively clean innings. I mean, it was everything. I think he allowed 2 or 3 base runners. So huge performance from him.
Exactly. That's what we're going to need that down the stretch. We got less than 20 games left. I think that's right.
Less than 30.
Less
27
than 30.
left.
Okay, cool. I got a question here in the chat here from Royal Flush Terry. Wants to know what's the latest on Nick Senzelle.
I really haven't heard a recent update. He's rehabbing in Goodyear, Arizona. That was the last I heard. There was knee fluid buildup when they optioned him to Louisville when he wanted to come back from the injured list. He told him, "Hey, my knee's still not 100%." So still on the injured list. To me, it'd be surprising if he's back this season. I mean, that would be best case scenario. Just the clock's against him right now. I mean, everything's going to have to work out. He'd still have to go back on another rehab assignment and prove he's healthy. So time's working against him. That's probably the toughest thing. And I can't see the Reds rushing it back. I mean, after optioning him in the first place, they're not going to push him back and not have a spot for him.
Right, exactly. Now I have a question because that was kind of controversial stuff that was going on. Was Nick not trying to tell them about his knee, or what was the whole story that you found out about that? Because it sounded like Nick was coming back, and then all of a sudden, this knee problem, and then the first they didn't bring him up. That's why it was kind of a head scratcher, like what's going on with that. And then all of a sudden they just flat out optioned him to AAA. We're like, what?
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those. He was on his rehab assignment. He thought he was playing well. I mean, he had hits. But the Reds just didn't think he was ready to be an everyday starter. And they thought, okay, he wanted to end his rehab assignment. He said, okay, I'm done. And, that's well within his rights. And the Reds said, okay, you're done, but we're not going to call you up. We're going to send you to AAA. And I'm guessing that surprised him. I'm guessing that upset him. And then after that, he said, okay, my knee's not 100% yet. I've been fighting through this. And, then it just kind of went back to the injured list. They reversed the whole decision, and that's where we are now. But I think it was just one of those things. He thought he could push through it. He thought he'd be back, and the Reds said otherwise. They just didn't think he was ready. And if they don't think he's ready, I mean, it doesn't make sense to overdo it either.
Right, exactly. And I'm wondering what this means for Nick Senzelle's future with the Reds, because I mean he's been their starting center fielder on opening day the last 3 years now, and he's not even part of the team right now. And it's just the whole vibe of it's been kind of just interesting. And I'm just curious where this is going to go with him. I know you can't see the future or anything like that. I just think it's an interesting story that we're going to have to keep an eye on during this upcoming offseason, which hopefully will be an offseason after a playoff run. Hopefully that'd be nice. Now, The cool thing that's happened, I think, is the last couple of days, the Giants and the Dodgers have switched. So as of right now, if the season ended today, the Reds would be in a one-game playoff versus the Giants and not the Dodgers. And I think that's a good thing because I don't want to face Max Scherzer on a one-game playoff against a guy who's won the World Series before and is a pretty damn good pitcher. I'll take my chances with the Giants. I know the Reds haven't done that good against the Giants this year, but they haven't done that good against the West in general this year. So what's your thoughts on the one-game playoff and all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think of it as I don't think anyone would want to play the Dodgers in any circumstance. One series, 7-game series, doesn't matter. I mean, they have a loaded team, loaded roster. Their pitching staff. Walker Buehler might win the Cy Young. You have Max Scherzer, who's as good as anybody in big game situations. Clayton Kershaw, Julio Urias. So they're loaded with pitching. So that's the toughest matchup to me. I mean, in a world, you try to get them in a 1-game playoff because, say, you win the wild card game, then you have to beat them in a 5-game series, and I think that's a lot tougher than winning 1 game against them.
True.
The Reds did take 2 out of 3 earlier this season in Los Angeles, so they've proven they can hang with the Dodgers. It's just in terms of you're going to have to play pretty close to perfect baseball to beat and the Giants. The Giants just as good as the Dodgers this year.
Yeah, exactly. The West has been loaded. I mean, I that's why when this season has unfolded, I was always saying I think our best shot to win this was to win the division because I said I think both wild cards are going to come out of the West. But luckily for us, the Padres have stumbled, and the Reds have been able to catch them and pass them now. Hopefully, they can just stay like that. That would be good. But that's where I was kind of surprised with the way the season has gone. I was wrong about the Brewers. My personal opinion is if we had the bullpen we had now, which actually I'll do this real quick. What's your opinion on the bullpen the Reds have right now? How good, bad? Where do you think their bullpen is right now?
I think it's better, but it's still not where you need it to be. I mean, in a perfect world, you have a bullpen like the Brewers where you have 2 guys like Devin Williams and Josh Hader. You give them the ball, they shut it down. Game's over if you have a lead after the 7th inning. The Reds are in a better spot. Michael Lorenzen's playing really well. Michael Givens is also doing well out of the bullpen since he came over. All the guys really they traded for Justin Wilson and Luis Cessa are having solid seasons, but I think losing TJ Antone hurts a lot more than maybe people realize. I mean, just having him that would have been huge to have a 3-headed type thing in the back with Lorenzen, Antone, and Givens, those 3 guys to overpower lineups, especially if Antone looked anything like he did in the first half of the season.
Oh, absolutely. I could not wait for TJ Antone to come back. I said because he could be our hammer, I think, coming out of the bullpen. And along with Michael Lorenzen, which Michael Lorenzen has actually been pretty good out of the bullpen. He's really had one little rough outing, but other than that, he's been really, really good for the Reds. But yeah, I do think that losing TJ Antone is a huge loss for the Reds. And the thing is, with the Tommy John for him again being so late in the season, we're probably not going to see him till 2023.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a medical miracle type deal if he was ready for next season. Usually it's a 15-month injury, so spring training 2023 would probably be the first time he'll be back. Yeah,
I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted. I have Mrs. Ice and her sister walking into the ice cave here, just staring at me. So I was like, completely lost all train of thought. Thanks, ladies. But yeah, but TJ Antone, come back 2023 is, and the thing with that is, I was surprised that how many times do guys have Tommy John twice? I mean, on the obviously Sam Arnold's pitching, but I mean that usually doesn't happen very often, does it?
It seems like it's coming up a little bit more. I mean, Tommy John itself is a lot more popular than it used to be, but there are some guys like Daniel Hudson, closer for the Nationals. He's had it twice. Mike Clevenger, he'll be back next season. He's had it twice. So it's not exceedingly rare, but it is definitely a lot more riskier. I mean, when you have Tommy John surgery once, the first time, the success rate in coming back is usually 90, 95%, that you're able to get back to the level you once were. I think second Tommy John, it's a lot lower. So, I mean, there is risk there that, maybe he doesn't get back to where he is, just because traditionally that hasn't been the case for a lot of guys. When they have their second Tommy John, they just come back worse and aren't able to have the same career.
Well, let's hope he comes back very solid, because he was he was going to be a great pitcher. He was a great pitcher for us. Hopefully he comes back and picks up right where he left off. Now, The Reds just added this week Delano Shields Jr. How cool has it been? I don't know how much you've been able to interact. I know you can't go down into the locker room or anything, but I think you can go on the field. So how cool is it to watch father and son interacting on a Major League Baseball team?
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. I mean, it's like they said, it's a dream come true. Something they've always envisioned. I mean, in spring training, they've played against each other, and that was always cool because they take the lineup cards out and have a chance to meet behind home plate. But Delano DeShields, the older one, the first base coach, I mean, he's as respected as anybody. He managed a lot of the Reds players in the minor leagues. A lot of players love him. So the chance to see him happy, to have his son by him, is really cool. But it's also like they're also looking at it as he joined the team in September. They're in a playoff race. It's not really a time for like.
Yeah, it's not kumbaya.
Yeah, I mean, it's something I think they'll reflect on after the season. But right now, I think we're going to focus day by day, and I'm sure they'll be happy to see each other. But it's one of those.
Right.
I think they would have enjoyed it a little bit more if it happened in April or May.
Right. They could enjoy it throughout the season. Now, with a big win last night for the Reds, they have the Detroit Tigers coming in, and I think. Now, I thought we should have done this with the Marlins, won that series. I think there's a very good chance that the Reds could not only win the series, but sweep them. And I'm not sure who do the Padres have? Who are they facing? Are the Reds facing an easier opponent over the weekend right now? I think they are.
Yeah, let me check.
While you're doing that, I'll put this up here.
I think they have an easier one, too.
Do they? Okay. Yeah, Crown wants to know
they have Houston and then the Angels. So tough one. And then easier next week.
There you go. So that's good. That's good for the Reds because I mean, the one good thing about the Reds' schedule is they played most of their tough games in the first half of the season, and now toward the end is the easier games. Which I say that, and then we just played the Miami Marlins and we lost 2 out of 3. So you never know what's going to happen. But also, I think that had a lot to do with the Reds' offense not being there because I think the pitching was actually pretty good in the Marlins series. We just couldn't hit.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And, the Alcantara game, I think you forgive them for that. The series finale, that was the one that hurt. They lost 2-1 in that game. Just you saw how angry they were at the strike zone. I think there was some frustration there just in terms of how badly they wanted to score and couldn't get a run across. But, it's the Reds have the schedule in front of them. If they're in the second place for the wild card right now, so it's like you control what you can control. You beat up on the bad teams, you're going to make the playoffs. So if they don't make it, I mean, it's kind of they have themselves to blame if they can't take advantage of the schedule they have.
Yeah, I mean, they've had issues with a lot of strike zones this year. And actually, that kind of brings me to an interesting question. I don't want robot umpires. I don't want that. But I thought the point was a couple years ago when they brought, all you umpires back. I missed probably 10 years ago now when it's not National League, not American League. It's just umpires, and they try to get a uniform strike zone. And at first, it kind of seemed like we had a pretty uniform strike zone. Now this year, it kind of seems like it's getting to whatever the umpire decides it wants to be, which is okay if they call it that way the entire game. And I think that's been a lot of the Reds' problems and issues this year. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely see the complaints. I also think it's a different type of era. I mean, with the TV box, you can scrutinize it immediately. I mean, when the TV box wasn't there, 15, 20 years ago, right. The borderline pitches, you could complain about them, but no one would know immediately. You just have that instant feedback. And I think that's kind of where I feel like it's unfair to umpires. I mean, you call 95% of the calls correctly and everyone's going to remember the 5% just because it's on TV and everyone just did immediately.
Right.
But, I hear what you're saying. I mean, as long as you're consistent in your strike zone, even if it's outside the box, I think players can live with that as long as you stay within that consistency.
Yeah, because we had that. I can't remember who the umpire was, but it was the Cubs game, Cubs series earlier this year. And he kept calling the ball the outside, low and outside. And he's calling it on both sides. So you can't get that upset if he's doing it from both sides. I know both sides were complaining about it because I know Nick I think that was the one. Or no, was that the game Nick Castellanos got thrown out really quick? Was that the Cubs series or that was a different one? I cannot.
That was Philadelphia.
Yes, he got thrown out in like 2 seconds. That's where I'm kind of like, all right, dude. Either he said the magic word or that umpire just really had a quick hook because it was he couldn't have said that much. He got thrown out real fast. But I actually got a question here in the chat again from Royal Frost. Terry wants to know who starts in the Reds 1-game playoff. Who do you think?
I think it's got to be Luis Castillo, right? I mean, he's been as good as anybody since June.
Mm-hmm.
Had one really bad start, but other than that, been as good as anybody. And I mean, if his stuff is on, he can beat anybody. And I think he's the one who gives you kind of the biggest margin for error with his 100-mile-an-hour fastball, his changeup, his slider. I would take my odds with him on the mound any day.
Absolutely. I think he's been our most consistent one. I know he got off to a very rough start. Now, let's get back to that where early in the year, Luis was having rough starts. Did we ever figure out why that was happening? Is it because of the cold weather? Because I know a lot of people said that he couldn't, get the grip on the change up because of his hands are cold and stuff like that. Is that an actual factor in why he got off to such a rough start, or was it just mechanics?
Probably a factor of both. I mean, it's just he wasn't very good in cold weather, and it seemed like he got all the cold weather starts in April, and then he also had a bad May too. So I just think it was one of those things. Mechanically, he didn't look 100%. His changeup wasn't getting swings and misses. There were a lot of pitches he had that stuff-wise, it just wasn't where it is now. So he worked a lot. I mean, it was one of those things. I think he had a really dominant spring training. Maybe that gave him a false sense of confidence coming in, and then when your mechanics don't look good, no pitcher's any good with that.
Right. Now, that's interesting. You say that false sense of security with a really great spring training. That brings me to AG. Garrett. I mean, he had one of the most dominating springs I think I've ever seen in my life. I think he literally struck out everybody he faced. Do you think that's been a factor to his, I won't even say up and down year. I mean, he's a pretty down year for him. He's every once in a while he does pretty good, but he's not a guy we can count on right now. But do you think that's a factor with him, or what are your thoughts on AG?
I just think it's a mental thing. I mean, I think in the beginning of the season, there was some bad luck. He got hit around. Guys took advantage of some of his pitches. But then since then, it just doesn't seem like he has the same confidence. I mean, walking a lot more hitters than usual, kind of nip the strike zone, which really isn't his game. I mean, when he's at his best, he's throwing his slider and daring guys to try to hit it. So maybe just I think having such a bad start that he had, maybe that jarred his confidence, didn't think his slider was as good, and then he kind of went away from it. And, it took him some time. It's been a rough season for him. If the Reds can get him anywhere close to where he usually is, where he has been in past seasons, that'll be huge because they really need a left-handed pitcher to step up. But that been a tough season for him.
Now, do you think he's kind of not blamed it, but said that he can't be himself now because he gets suspended and he can't do the whole AG thing and, being wild and crazy. Do you think that that's a factor in it? I mean, I guess it could be, but I don't know.
I don't see it too much, only because he was struggling beforehand. I mean, if it was like he was dominant, got suspended, and then struggled afterwards, maybe you could point to that a little bit more. It's been kind of a season-long struggle, not just since the suspension.
Absolutely. Now, I know I had to bring this up because if I don't, my boy Crown, who's a avid watcher of my show, will want me to bring up Hunter Green. And the Bats tweeted this out. He was sharp last night, I guess, 5 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned run, 6 Ks. Do you think he'll be up here next year? Do you think him and Nick Lodolo will be in our rotation next year? What's your thoughts on that?
Definitely think they'll get the opportunity. I mean, I think they'll be competing for a job in spring training. I wouldn't rule out, I think there's not a huge chance, but I think there's a small chance he's has a chance of being promoted this month and kind of helps out in the stretch run if they really need a bullpen arm. He's never pitched out of the bullpen. I think that's probably the toughest thing. But his velocity's there. If he can get his off-speed stuff where he needs it to be, maybe they take a chance on it. But I definitely think next year he'll get 100% an opportunity to win a job in spring training. Don't know if it'll be handed to him, but definitely have a chance to win.
Now let's get to the legend, as I call him, Joseph Daniel Votto. And Bobby, I've never seen a player at this stage of his career go through a complete swing change of what he's from crouching down to standing all the way up to holding the bat, end of the bat, and having the power that he's having, and even the mental change of he's swinging at things now that he wouldn't swing at last year, 4 years ago, and he's driving the ball. Have you ever seen anybody have this kind of a renaissance at this age? I think he's 35. Is that, or is he older than that?
37. He'll turn 38 in a week, I think.
Okay.
So yeah, but no one really comes to mind. I mean, there's guys who've had success at the end of their careers: David Ortiz, Chipper Jones, some other guys who've had really good seasons in their late 30s. Obviously, like Barry Bonds and those guys, who probably were aided with some other stuff. But I give credit for what he's done. I mean, he redid his whole approach, and he's had a ton of success. But I mean, he says it's a lot easier for him than it used to be. I mean, just his old approach, he felt like he had to be perfect all the time. Just knowing the strike zone, having to put every ball in play that he did. Now it's a little bit easier because he's just swinging, looking for his pitch and swinging for the fences compared to before. Yeah,
exactly. And I have not seen him do that silly half swing. I used to, when he would do that, that would drive me nuts. I'd yell at the TV screen, just swing. And that's what he's doing right now. He's just swinging. And do you think he's swung himself into the MVP race with his second half surge? Because he's leading the team in home runs. He's leading the team in almost every offensive category right now.
I think he's in the conversation. I mean, I think Fernando Tatis Jr. is probably the favorite. There's some other guys who are probably ahead of him, but I could see him definitely being a top 5 candidate, top 10, somewhere in there. Say the Reds make the playoffs, he has another hot month, kind of like he was in early August, late July. Maybe he inches up closer to the top 3 and, can put himself next to Tatis. But he still has some ground to make up. Just he missed a month of the season, didn't hit very well by this standard in April. So
right.
3 months he had to catch up on the rest of the guys. But it's been remarkable what he's done second half of the season.
Yeah, oh boy, has he caught up. That is for sure. Now, another guy that hopefully will be back sometime soon is Jesse Winker. Any word on when he might be back?
He's starting to swing. He's been throwing, still doing some light activities. So I would say you probably won't see him for at least another week, I would think, and then maybe 10 days, 2 weeks, possibility that he's back if everything goes well. Don't know if he'll need to do a quick rehab assignment, but just he's been out for a little bit. So
right.
And he already aggravated the injury once. They don't want to do that again. So they're going to be a little bit cautious with him. So I think at least 10 days before he's back.
Yeah, exactly. If the Reds do make the playoffs, you definitely want a healthy Jesse Winker in the lineup every day, playing out there in left field. Well, Bobby, as always, I appreciate you coming on the show. You gave me a half hour. That is awesome. Where can everybody find you at? Twitter handle, your articles you got up, and just let everybody know about you.
Yeah, on Twitter, it's at NightingaleJR, and then Cincinnati.com has all of our stories up there. It should be a fun final month, so keep checking Cincinnati.com for more updates.
Exactly, I will, and I'll have to get you on if the Reds are in the playoffs, we'll have to get you in here, or maybe the last week of the season, I have to try to get you on which I know it's easier when the Reds are off, but we'll figure something out. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem. See you. All right, guys, that was cool. Do a little Reds talk. We can do a little Bengals talk a little bit off the top of my head. Look, I don't have it. I'll be honest. I don't have anything written down for the Bengals because, again, this week is my son's wedding. So lots of in-laws are in town, just like my sister-in-law was over here with my wife making fun of me while I'm doing my show. So they're just showing up. So I do know that Trent Irvin got, I think Jay Morrison tweeted out that he got signed to the practice squad. I'm pretty sure I read that tweet right. And that's the only one I saw right before I came on the air as far as Bengals go. Crown, what do you want to know? Are you going to watch Ohio State tonight? Yes, I am. I'll watch right now. I'll watch any college football team. But yes, I will be watching Ohio State, of course, because that is my second favorite. I got to kind of root for Florida State too, because the girl upstairs, I kind of like her. She likes Florida State, but I will be watching Ohio State tonight. But let me get to the Facebook groups that let me live stream, and as always, I appreciate every single one of them. They are Houday Nation, Bengals Nation, Bengals Houday Nation, Cincinnati Bengals to Jungle, Cincinnati Reds riding third, heading for home, Bearcat Country, the Ohio State Bucknuts. And then you can follow me on all my social media platforms, all under Sports with Strawberry Ice. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Twitter handle is at Jeff A. Trunipole. Find me on TikTok at Iceman90. I'll be pulling a sound off later on tonight and putting it up there. It'll be on Apple, iTunes, BeanPod, Spotify, Stitcher, pretty much wherever you get your podcast. Please make sure you download, rate, like, and review. Leave a comment so more people could find my podcast. I would greatly appreciate it. YouTubers, it keeps growing. I'm at 1,348 subscribers. That is awesome. I appreciate every single one of you guys. I'm sorry, it's kind of a short show, but we're going out to eat with the in-law. Well, my son's soon-to-be in-laws family tonight. So, yeah, however you say that. Lots of family stuff going on. So, big weekend for us. No show tomorrow because, like I said, wedding this weekend. So, I will be back. I might be back Monday because that's Labor Day. I might not. I don't know. Actually, no, I will be back Monday because I think James Rapine is going to be on the show. So I should be back Monday with hopefully James Rapine on the show. And other than that, as my boy, Jeremy Dimebag These Nuts always says, you don't live in Cleveland, you live in Cincinnati. So act like it. Hooday! And then I come in and say, and that's just sports, baby.
Let's go. Orange in the day, black in the night. Stripes in our veins, sparks gonna fly. The beast is awake, orange, black and white. Cause when the jungle come alive, who day we ignite and Cincinnati, we gon' rise and in the jungle we unite and dripping orange and black and white. Who day when we fight, live and die in these stripes. Wake up the beast, everything day is a feast. Time to bust it off the leash. In the jungle dripping heat, tigers stripe the city streets. East side stand up, west side stand up. If you reppin' who day, time to put your hands up. Bingo stripes, we in it. New day, new age, yeah, we get it. Cincinnati jungle fit it. Who they in our house, we win it. Orange and black and white, we build it. Earn our stripes, you know we kill it. Bleed our colors, jungle dripping. Nasty, natty, yeah, we lit it. Lit the crowd, get the city loud. Yeah, we feasting now. Fit the pounce, make the city howl. Now we beastin' now. Thunder through the tunnel, from the sideline to the huddle. Stripes we tatted on the jungle when we flex that who they muscle on them. Stripes, Cincinnati, we gon' rise and in the jungle we unite and dripping orange and black and white. Who day when we fight, live and die in these stripes. Now who gotta move like it on? Now who wanna move crossing on? Now who wanna move on? If you got stripes and you let the city know you rock 'em, yeah we got 'em, yeah we fought 'em. Like that black and orange on bottle, bingo bottle, never stop it till the beast of feastin' on 'em. Who they rockin' with the diamond stripes, flossin' on the ring. Cincinnati, she's our queen, we gon' show the world who king. Orange in the day, black in the night. Stripes in our veins, sparks gonna fly. The beast is awake, orange, black and white. Cause when the jungle comes